Warning: the following live video is unscripted, unrehearsed, and presented in a raw format. Inappropriate language, suggestive humor, alcohol and tobacco use may be present at any time.
We've got to work together.
What? We're live? I don't understand any of this crap. Back in my day, we didn't have to deal with all this fancy camera crap and computers and laptopies. We had simple shit. We wanted to communicate with somebody. We had to write them a letter in our own blood. Ship it by pigeon. It might get there at some point. We don't even know. And the music you guys listen to nowadays, ridiculous. We had a trombone and a raspy voice, and that's what you got to listen to. Back in my day, we went to school. We walked uphill both ways. Don't ask how that's possible. You weren't there. Back in my day just takes you all the way out to all these different scenarios of Grandpa telling you stories. Hi, I'm Keith Litfin for Ear, Shoulder, Voice, ESV. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about back in my day. It's basically stories of when you grew up, how things were then, and how they are now, and how they compare to everybody. But it's not always so bad. We think of back in my day as being 80 years ago, the stories Grandpa used to tell us. It's not like that anymore. I mean, do you realize the iPhone was first released in 2009? Just over 10 years ago. Facebook became popular just under 10 years. Back in my day just means a little bit of time ago. It doesn't necessarily mean way back when. So we're going to talk about those situations. Some things, as much as we may complain that things aren't the same nowadays, we find out a lot of things are even better nowadays. And if we had them back then, we'd use them too. That's going to be the topic of the show. Don't forget, of course, while you're there, to like and subscribe and follow ESV, Ear, Shoulder, Voice on YouTube and Facebook. When you do that, you'll be able to live chat during our shows, get notified of all our new shows, as well as be a guest panelist if you choose. Other than that, enjoy. We're going to start out by bringing out our first person tonight. This is going to be Gabe Grady. Gabe, how are you doing today? I am
good. How are you?
Fantastic. I am Keith, and I am amazing. Did you say who or how?
How?
I am absolutely amazing, Gabe.
I like the Ben Franklin glasses.
It's what I had handy. I just got to take what I can get.
Very good.
So Gabe, you actually are around my age, so you remember a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And what makes you really interested in this show? What is it about back in my day that interests you?
You know, there's been a lot of change. With us growing up, I think that the changes as far as like media and music and fashion, it seemed like everything was at a slower pace, and now everything is changing a mile a minute, and it's so fast that it's almost impossible to keep up anymore. So, like, for me, 20 years ago, I used to build PCs for a living, and then I started my work at the job that I'm at right now, and I couldn't even tell you how to do it now because things, have changed so much. And then there's a lot of things to talk about today.
Well, there definitely will be quite a bit we're going to cover on here. I don't think it's all bad. You're right,
No.
though. You're right. The music has definitely changed. The media has definitely changed. Accessibility of everything has definitely changed. But also sometimes the way the kids are reacting are definitely changed too. Now, at the same point, some people want to go back like, oh, these kids don't know what it's like growing up.
Right.
They don't know what it's like being around, their friends and playing outside. Do you honestly believe if we had access to the same social media, we would be doing the same thing?
No. And I think that people, kids grow up and they adjust to the environment that they're given. So if your entire clique is on social media, that's where all your social behaviors are going to be at anyway. So you're still making that contact. And I think that us as people that didn't grow up with that and maybe don't use it as much are a little drawn back by it because they don't think that kids these days are properly socializing. And to a degree, a lot of it is done, through social network sites and things like that, Instagram, all that stuff. But, the networking in order for them to get, connected and, they hang out with each other, I would say equally,
Yeah, I would say actually they have more communication. I mean, you look at some of these Facebook people, they have communication with every friend from school with Instagram and Snapchat and all that going on. I'm sorry,
Right.
the Instagrams and the Snappy Chats,
Mm-hmm.
things we don't quite understand at this point.
Yep.
There was a lot going on, but I do believe that they have access to more socialization. I just think they miss sometimes the in-person contact with people.
Right. Yeah, there's a layer there. And we talked about this when I first started talking to you about why I joined this show in the first place. And for me, it was, being a part of this sort of helped me therapeutically so I could talk to people. Because growing up, I had a lot of cliques and things like that. And then I got older, I got married, I had a kid, and slowly became sort of introverted. Not entirely, but much more than I used to be. And keeping those connections with friends was always difficult.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say right now, I'm a little jealous of them, actually,
Right.
because we just, every adult was just thrust into being alone
Right.
and
And I
having
was-
nobody around.
Exactly. And I was already used to it.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's like, so I would, for me, my life is my work and my family. So, I would go out and meet with you, every Wednesday night or whatever, and we would do karaoke, and that would be our interaction. And, we get to talk about things serious and not serious. And that was my out, and once that ended, and then this, you got to understand that I've done this job that I do. I work in communications, doing install and service, and for the most part, I've been alone for 10 hours a day with a little bit of interaction with customers and things like that. For the most part, I've been in my head for 20 years.
That is a dangerous
10 hours
place
a
to
day.
be.
Right. So
I know your head. You don't want to be there all the time.
so it's good to get out,
Yeah.
and so that sort of threw a wrench in it. But going back to the topic, we are not that tech savvy. Like, we're on this and stuff like that, but we don't know the sort of current things and where to go to for that type of, social interaction.
Speak for yourself. I'm
Well-
tech savvy as fuck.
Well, you are maybe okay. Then I'm not. So
You know what
But-
though? When it comes to the social networks and stuff, actually that's where I'm dumb. I can build
Right.
a computer program and tell you how to do it, write any software I need to. But people say, "Hey, you know how to do this on Instagram?" I'm like, Instagram? What the fuck? No, I have no clue. Like, I'm just learning how to use Snapchat. Like, wait, doesn't it go to everybody? Just people? I don't even know how it all works still.
yep.
But they definitely have that, and that's better.
Right.
But how many? Do you think there's a lot of kids right now that actually do not go outside, don't ride their bikes, don't play sports with their friends in the streets? Do you see a lot of that, or do you see that happening more often?
I live with a playground behind me, and every once in a while I'll see some kids out there, but not as much as usual. I mean, with us going back to our group, we were basically the Goonies, and we had like 6 kids, and most of them lived on the same block, and it was that thing that you see where a ton of bikes are on the front yard, and you know where everybody's at, and everybody was going to everybody's house. Everybody called each other's mom, and dad, because you didn't know their real names, so you just called them mom and dad, and you got used to it, and they got used to it, and they just had a
See,
9 more
I
kids?
never would do that,
See,
no
I
matter
did
what.
that.
I
Yeah.
couldn't. Every one of my friends, there was never a replacement for my mom. I don't know why I didn't call people dad, because I could have easily used a lot of replacements for that, but I
Yeah.
was never able to call someone else my mom. All right, we're going to bring in another shoulder of ours right now. Please welcome our lovely and talented Nikki. How you doing?
Hi guys.
Hello.
Technical issues. What the hey?
That's
Yeah.
okay. We filled the spot for you.
Good
Yeah.
job, guys. Good job.
It's what we could do. So, Nikki, why don't you tell me? We were just talking about back in the day. We were actually referring to social networking, and if we had it during the day, would we have still used it? You think? You think we might have been addicted as well? What do you think about that?
Definitely. I mean, we had video games and we used them. We were definitely addicted like the kids, are today. Maybe even the kids today are on a different level, but I would have used it. We had computers when I was, God, I want to say elementary, middle school. We had, you had
Apple
to do the
IIs?
whole, yeah, you had to, tell it to run and you had to, tell it all the HTML codes. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we had dial up, though.
Good old
Well, you know
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail was
Yes.
the shit.
Oh, yes.
They tried to bring that shit back for kids, and it just sucks now. It's all weird.
Yeah,
It's not
they
the same
put too
anymore.
much into it. Yeah.
Well, they have new stuff for the kids. The kids, like my son's in elementary school, he was always doing this math one, but it was games. It was games like we did as kids, but of course they had to use the laptop at home, whatever. But they had apps for their phones. Now kids have it made nowadays. You got everything right at your fingertips.
Right.
It's right there. You're walking. I mean, this is who needs a laptop? This is like a freaking.
It's
a
everything.
handheld computer. You don't need a camera. You don't need.
Is that really
nothing.
all unique? Is that unique? Because I'm
know.
telling you, I was a kid when Game Boy came out, and everybody had
Sure.
one of those, and the Walkmans and the CD players and all that. Every kid had one of those.
Yeah, it's just evolution of technology, and I'm sure our children's children are gonna have things even way cooler. God, they'll probably have. The toys will probably play for them. They wouldn't have to play with their toys because their toys will be all they'll be freaking. I don't know.
They
I can't even
practically
imagine.
do now. They
I
practically
know.
play themselves right now.
I know.
Yeah.
Robots, dogs.
You know what I wish I really had though is those the Power Wheels. We had Power Wheels, but we didn't have
Yes.
the kind of things they have now.
No, are you
These
kidding
I
me?
kids
was
are
too
fully
old,
learning
yeah.
to drive at 5 years
Yeah,
old.
I saw this probably 3-year-old, 4-year-old had a freaking it was a Navigator. She had a full decked out SUV Power Wheels. Like I was waiting for her to want to race me. This little girl had it, and this thing went fast. They're
I
not
saw- I saw a
slow.
tank the other day.
Yeah.
A
Tank.
little tank.
Yeah.
That's training early. That's government work. I'm sorry. No,
Motorcycles.
just
They got some cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But we were talking about how we used to go outside a lot more and we would play, and some of us were limited. I know I was limited to go outside for 15 minutes. And I had to check in when I was really a little kid. Gabe remembers that probably, and it was for good reason too. Actually,
Sure.
because sometimes we got into a bit of trouble that
Yes.
No.
We are solely responsible for Keith getting
Boys,
grounded.
I could see especially.
truth.
I
Yeah,
know
it's mostly our fault.
Yeah, right. Trust me, I know. I got a bunch of ya running around this house. I know, me growing up, we always had our aunt with us, but my dad had he had all daughters, so we stayed in a pack. That was just our family rule. But it was when the street lights came on, your asses were inside. There was no oh, I'll be home. No, you planned for that.
I
You
think the
knew.
goal's opposite now. I think it's you better be outside before I get home playing with your friends, because no kids want to. It doesn't seem like, at least.
No, God, no. I have to bribe mine to go outside.
Really.
But I mean, at the same time, isn't that kind of the parents' fault too? Don't we give them all the crap that makes them stay home?
Yeah,
Yep.
for definitely.
Yeah, it's us doing that, because there is a limitation to what you
Yeah.
want the exposure to
Yeah.
the media and everything like that to be
Yeah.
for sure. And I growing up, obviously, I've enjoyed video games my whole life. I've enjoyed movies and music. You know, I am definitely a media nut. So for me, I can fall just as deeply into that sort of addiction. And it's hard to police your child when, you know, when you're doing those things. So I'm trying to do my best to sort of make sure that we're both not exposing ourselves.
Well, because I still like my video games and movies and all
Right.
that too. But
Yeah.
a lot of the younger generation right now doesn't believe we even had that. They don't
Right.
think we understand the concepts of video games and stuff. And yeah, we may not get the concept of instantly communicating to somebody through Messenger as a kid
Right.
and having that capability. We called. But one thing I loved about being younger when I was a kid, when I wanted to go to my friend's house, I left the house. I walked to the door. If they were available or not. If they
Yeah.
weren't, I moved on. If they were, we hung out.
Yeah.
And I think that was a lot of fun for me. And sometimes I'd go 3-4 places before I'd find somewhere that I
Yeah.
liked. And now it seems like you have to schedule it. And as a kid, I don't think it's good to have to schedule your time with your friends.
No.
Right,
I mean,
you just pop in.
they need that interaction, and they need to be getting out there. But it is totally different than we were growing up. Like growing up, you knew where all the kids were because that's where all the bikes were, you know, parked out front, or you would go find them or whatever. Nowadays, it's I literally just had this talk with my 13-year-old because he went to his buddy's house, and I was like, "What are you guys going to be doing? Are you going to be, you know, out in the neighborhood hanging out?" And lo and behold, they spent the day playing video games, and I'm like, "Really?" Like, get outside. Like, go be boys. Go find some worms. Like, you know, something. Go be kids.
Yeah, we were sort of half and half in that bag right there. So
Yeah,
we had
what we
once we
found
discovered
was
Nintendo. You know, it was half and half. We weren't fully in because, you know, everything was limited. I mean, video games cost like $70 still back then.
Well, they went down a little, and now they're back to $70.
Right now
again.
they're back
Yeah.
to $70.
But back then, $70 is like $200 today.
Right.
Even on, like, at, like, GameStop, because I'll go to, like, Disc Replay. They're even that expensive there? Video games?
Well, the used
they're-
ones aren't, but we didn't have
Right.
used options.
Oh, yeah,
Our
that's
best
true.
thing was to rent them.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was so cool. You could rent a whole game system, and then
Yeah.
I mean, you lost that friend for the weekend, or you hung out at their house. That was your
Yeah.
own choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
They just rented the Super Nintendo. It's time. But we had the video games. We were addicted to video games too. I don't know about you, Nikki.
We had Nintendo, like, and there was 5 kids in the house to try, you know, dividing playtime among 5 kids. Like, we played Duck Hunter was our favorite, Super Mario Brothers, you know, all the multiplayer games because we had siblings, and sometimes you would get a couple of us who wanted to play Barbies instead of play with video games. But we're definitely, my dad, when I was growing up, my dad was a pro bass fisherman. And one of his fishing partners, you know, through the years, his daughter, I'll never forget, we did not like this little girl. Our family of girls did not welcome other girls in very easily. We are a crazy bunch. And she just wanted so badly to come and play our video game, and we didn't want to share it, but she insisted that it cured her of whatever ailment she had, some kind of ailment. I just remember her saying she was like ill, and that insisting that Nintendo fixes it. That was
does.
how she tried to convince
I was
us.
like delayed. I didn't. All my friends had Nintendo. I was still playing ColecoVision.
Yeah.
You know, I was one behind. We were poor. We couldn't get it. My mom finally got one of the greatest. I'm going to save some of the video game talk.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't know, next Sunday is actually the video game revolution. We'll be talking about video games and how they've actually changed our lifestyles, how they've changed over the years and become more violent. That's going to be next Wednesday or next Sunday.
Sure.
Here. So, as far as that goes, what did you do? What did you do when you went outside, Nikki?
God, oh my gosh. We would go on adventures when growing up, like I said, my dad was a fisherman.
Uh-oh.
We might have lost Nikki again. I'm gonna. All right, we'll get back to her. Nikki's having connectivity issues today.
So
Oh,
our
here she is,
stories.
Here she is. Hold on. Here she is.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go.
Welcome back, Nikki.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
It's broken.
That's
Thanks,
okay. It was
Xfinity.
Lenny's turn last week. It's your turn
Oh.
this week. We'll all get it. Don't worry.
So, but growing up, so we lived in the water, so we did tons of fishing. I can't tell you how many days in the summer we spent fishing. But we lived down the street from this huge, we called it like a sand jump. We would like go on like bike excursions, and we created like these jumps. We'd go like jump in hills, you know, little girls, bunch of little girls, till we had a boys' bike. I don't know how it got into the mix, and we jumped a hill, and my seat broke on the bike, and you know how the boys' bikes have the bars that go across? Yeah. Girls have like the angled bar, while boys have the straight bar.
Never made sense to me. Isn't that backwards?
Yeah. No.
Well, I kind of figured it out, because I hit that freaking jump. My seat broke. I came down onto the bar. I'm pretty sure I lost my virginity that day. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just telling you, it wasn't fun. But we just did it. We were not the typical girly girls, okay? We played in the mud. I think I remember eating bugs as a young girl.
I think we all did.
Worms. My sister liked to try to get me to eat worms all the time.
If it worked, why not?
Right? I remember I had my nose broken as a
I take
little
it
girl.
she was the older sister, obviously.
She was, yeah. She totally was. I'm the second oldest of 5. Technically 6, but... Man, am I breaking up again?
No, you're fine.
Okay. You're okay.
But, yeah, I had my nose broken as a little girl playing baseball outside with the neighbor boys. I was the catcher, and I was standing too close, and this kid swung back and got me, and he shattered my nose. I was like 9. Yeah, that was fun, but I didn't care. I kept playing.
Were you at all, because I've always wondered this, because, you know, girls were, like, taboo till we were a little older. You didn't hang out with the girls and stuff like that. If you did, you ended up having less friends for that week. But did girls ever get into, like, the destruction habits or anything like that? Did they ever do any, like, reckless? We're going to get to Gabe in a minute. We did.
Oh, gosh. I can tell you something. It was kind of reckless. I was, like, 6. We lived in Fraser, and my sister beneath me was hanging out with me and my little boyfriend, David Brennan. I remember his name so clearly. And we decided we were going to feed her mushrooms.
Wait, how old were you?
I was like 6.
Are you talking like just out? You saw them growing somewhere?
Yeah, the ones that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
We totally poisoned her.
Not like the ones that just got legalized in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, no.
Not those.
Oh, God.
Say, damn, your 6-year-old years were much better than mine.
See
but
colors.
She had to go get, like, Epicac or something to make her, like, get rid of them. Well, then, like, 2 days later, me and my little boyfriend were playing with pipes. We had these big metal pipes. I don't know where the hell we got them from. Why our parents didn't stop us from playing with these things. Broke her freaking toe.
Oh my God.
We were crazy kids. I don't know, but that's.
I mean, I knew they were involved. My mom took a lead pipe to the head from my brothers just out of fun when she was growing up.
Oh,
we got in trouble.
I got stabbed with one of those, those things you use to pick up garbage on the side of the road. I got stabbed in my foot in one of those.
You sure they didn't just make a mistake and think you were some of the garbage on the side of the road?
Yeah, that was fun. So I had to go and get that. Yeah, we were terror. We saw every movie, like Goonies and all that stuff. It directly influenced us.
Oh, without a
because
doubt.
We were all either Mikey or Mouth. There was no different.
Yeah, pretty
much. We did the dumbest, most unsafe shit.
Well, we did.
Humanly
we had train
possible.
tracks behind us and everything too, so we were a little Stand By Me in there too, and that was completely us. But yeah, we had factories by us, and factories by kids are terrible ideas, because like all those little metal pieces and metal shavings and all that, they just store them in big bins that we can freely access, jump inside, and we did. These sharp metal objects fill these huge bins, and we're kids diving inside like this is cool as fuck.
Now keep in mind, these are giant metal bins stacked on top of each other.
Yes.
Up to 20 feet high.
Oh, God.
So we climbed them like jungle gyms. They were clearly some ones that had like toppled over and were resting in certain areas that if they gave way would have been an avalanche of pain.
Oh, yeah.
But these things, they had all the old materials in them from die casting, right?
Okay.
So they had these sharp triangular things. You remember
stars.
this? Right.
I do.
And we threw them at each other. We threw them at each other.
See, right now we're making it sound so much better that social media is around. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well,
Right.
I mean, like I said, I have sons. I've seen some crazy shit. You boys do some crazy stuff.
Oh, we found
Yeah.
one time we were there and we had this is a story I was going to tell earlier too. There was just this truck sitting there. So of course we're kids and there's heavy stuff around. So let's just start chucking and breaking these windows.
Right.
Let's just start having a good time with this stuff.
So
We're
you
not
had
thinking.
Yep, you had two buildings, and in the middle of it, you had a truck. And what we had done is we saw there was like a Trans Am windshield or something like that,
Oh God.
and the hood in the front. This is daytime. Everybody's working at the
Job.
factory there.
Oh,
Right.
that's big.
Keith, you want to go with it, or no?
Well, they are. Well, we kind of thought it was like just abandoned. Originally, that's what we thought. We didn't even give
Right.
any thought to somebody on these vehicles. Sure enough, the cops ended up coming for that one.
Yeah.
And my brother was with us at the time. I don't know if he wants
Yeah.
me telling this. My brother was too, Joe. And he was. So the cops, they scared the shit out of us. We're young. We had to be, what, 9, 10 years old, maybe a year or two older. Not old, though, at all.
No, I'd say about that age.
Yeah,
Yep.
about that. So we're all freaking out, and he's in the back seat. My brother's freaking out more. He's 6 years older than us, so he's got a better idea of what's going to happen here.
Oh God.
But he's also got a better idea that they're not going to prosecute a 9-year-old in front of a judge.
So I'm in the middle.
They're all
And-
three in the back of the cop car, and we're trying to get out of it, and Gabe isn't feeling well. Go ahead, Gabe.
So,
Oh,
so I'm terrified because my house is like probably like 5 houses away from this factory, and I'm just stressing because I don't want to get in trouble, and I throw up all over the back seat.
Oh,
It
cop
was
car.
great,
The
though.
police
It was
car.
gross at the time because the minute the police officer saw
Right.
that,
He
he had
pulls
us
us
get out
out.
of the car.
He's
He
like, get
goes-
out.
He goes, we could take you down to the station, but we think you've learned your lesson. So what we want you to do is go home and tell your parents what you did today, which we have sworn to secrecy until right about now.
Yeah. Well, my mom already knows. My mom passed away, so my mom's well aware of what I did now. How about your mom?
I might have said it over nonchalantly, across some sort
I
of
mean, we weren't
conversation.
stupid. You
Yeah,
know, we weren't
no.
like. I thought about it for a second. I'm like, no.
Yeah. No, we just went
But
home.
he
and-
saved us. We
played some
would have
video
been
games.
juvenile delinquents beyond belief if he wouldn't have puked in the backseat of a cop car.
Yep. So good advice. If you're
It
a
would've been
child
juvie for
that's
you
getting
all.
in trouble, throw up in the back of
So-
the police car.
Just throw up, or
Just throw up.
pee yourself, something.
Something.
So, well, I mean, honestly, if he wouldn't have puked, I was really trying to work up a good piss. So we just see what happened.
That was Plan B.
That was. Fortunately, Gabe came through on the first shot. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, what
Jeez.
about music? Do you think music's really changed a lot in the last how many decades? I'm not going to say.
I mean,
Since
it's
we're gonna do-
evolved. I think it's definitely evolved. Rap is a lot more, I don't know, popular, if you will, or, the electric kind of vibe. It's definitely evolved. I wouldn't say it's changed because there's still, I still hear 80s sounds or
Oh,
80s
we-
vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, me and Gabe used to sit outside singing "Hey, We Want Some Pudding" by Two Live Crew,
Yeah.
only because our parents were listening.
Radio station sent me that 2 Live Crew tape. 96.3 sent
Wow.
me
God,
an 11-year-old, and as nasty as they want to be because I told a joke on air and it made them laugh.
so they sent a Two Live Crew to a
So they sent me 2 Live Crew. Let's send it to this 11-year-old.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
I already had it. So,
Was it the adult version? Was it
oh, it was
X-rated?
definitely the adult version. Yeah.
I don't think there were a lot of non-adult versions at the time when they started coming out. If you bought Two Live Crew, that's what you got. I don't think
Yeah,
there
you
were a
got
lot of
the-
edited versions.
Until they got that disclaimer out there.
Yep.
See, a lot of people down today's generation for their music taste and what they like, and I am totally against that. I think
Yeah.
today's generation has better taste in music than we ever did.
It's subjective.
Well, the reason
Definitely.
I actually say that Yeah, the kids, mostly the teenagers and stuff, they'll sit around and they'll be listening to stuff from the 80s and the 90s
Yeah.
and the 70s, and they'll be jamming out to it. Do you realize that's the equivalent if we as kids were sitting in a group listening to
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin? We'd have gotten our
Probably.
asses kicked.
Yeah, but you know what though? Like my musical influences, they have built over the years, I should say, but mainly my musical influences came from my parents. So a lot of the older stuff that I listened to is what my parents were listening to. So naturally, I think it's a natural evolvement that's what my children listen to. My kids have some really good taste in music, and maybe you're on to something, Keith, because they really do have a really
They're much
great
more
ear for
eclectic
music. Yeah.
Than
yeah.
we were.
Eclectic is a great word.
We heard the same music that our parents. We knew the oldies. Our parents
Yeah.
played, listened to the oldies, but we didn't listen to that shit around our friends.
No, God, no.
But they do, and they
Yeah.
sing, and they know the words. When I'm doing karaoke, I have people who are coming in who are 21, 22, and they're singing Zeppelin, and they're singing
Yeah.
Journey and all that, and that's not their generation of music at all.
Yeah.
We would not do that. I think they are exposed enough and I think they're secure enough in the friendships they have, too, that they can enlighten each other more than we could, because we were outcast. If you didn't really agree with a lot of things we like, you were outcast. If we listened to rap and you didn't, you were out of the group.
That's so true.
We were a variety of people. We had friends who liked a variety of things, but typically for cliques, that's how it worked. You liked everything pretty much the same, or you didn't.
Exactly.
Hell, if you liked Sega and not Nintendo, you were an idiot, first of all.
Right.
But second of all,
Right.
you were out of the clique. Sega
Yeah,
sucks.
Everything's so different now too, as even as far as the form of the delivery of how you even get music.
Yeah.
Nobody sort of buys music anymore. So
No.
the things that I miss, back in the day, as far as music is concerned, is making the tape, the dubbing,
Yes.
The
the tape
mixtape.
Yes.
to the next tape, or making the CD to the next.
Yeah.
That I've considered making a couple
There's
just
a hand.
just to get
I wish I
just get that
still.
feeling.
I wish I still actually, I still do have my father-in-law, who could sell a freaking freezer to an Eskimo, sold me this stereo, and I've had it for like 10 years. My son has kind of taken it, and it's got a cassette player. I don't think it works though, but man, I love to play in my cassette tapes and make a road trip. We'd make road trip tapes or CDs eventually, as we got older. I don't even think I have any CDs or cassettes anymore, to be honest.
Just a reminder to everybody out there, we always want you to like, share, follow, subscribe on YouTube and Facebook when you get a chance as we're continuing this conversation. Also, we're doing live interactivity right now. If you go to the ESV Facebook page, you can actually find a link where you can join the broadcast live when we're on. And we
Join
can
us.
actually put you on there. All you need is a webcam. We're going to try to do that in future shows, too, as well for anybody that wants to join in.
Join us.
Yes, join us. Come to the dark side. It gets darker as you go. I mean,
We won't
you got
fight
over
you.
here, and then you got Nikki down here, and it gets
know.
darker over here. So which part do you want to be in is all up to you.
I'm like that peak of the roller coaster ride. You could either shit yourself or you're gonna hang on and have a fun ride. Could go either way.
So we're talking about what we had and what we did. Anything you think nowadays the kids have that you wish we really had when we were kids?
Oh, it's
I mean,
limitless.
Yeah, I mean, there's toys and God, I mean, so many things. But you know what, though, I kind of like the childhood I had better. If I'm being honest.
Right.
We weren't so consumed in the technology of the world. Like we actually did get out and be kids, and my
Right.
memories.
There's my wife.
Aw. My memories of childhood are grand compared to, my kids. Can my kids talk about how they went jumping dirt hills? Hell no.
Right.
Do they know? Like we grew up. One of our neighbors was an ex-professional football player, but we knew that because we got out and we got to know our neighbors. My kids don't know. They don't know who they live by. I don't think they care either.
What about cell phones? Do you think cell phones have hindered or embraced us, really?
my wife, speaking of her popping in there, one of the things that she brought up, because I asked her and I told her I was going to be doing this, is the joy of being unavailable.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Is that, back then you sort of had trust. You just had to trust people to be where they said that they were going to be, to come home when they say they're going to come home, and to call you. I mean, that still kind of applies, but now it's to the point where they're connected, and you sort of let kids grow up a little bit sooner, I think, back then.
Yeah.
There was a lot to be said for not being able to be gotten a hold of. And the thing
Right.
is, people take it so personally now.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, and even I do this too. When I used to call somebody and they didn't answer the phone, I'm like, they're busy, they're not home, I'd forget, I'd move on to the next person.
Yeah.
Big deal. When somebody doesn't answer my texts anymore or doesn't answer my phone, oh, it's like, they know I called. What the hell's
I
going
know
on?
you got your
They
phone
know
in your
I'm
hand
here.
right now.
I see
Right.
right there. It says you've seen
Right.
it.
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
so grateful that we didn't have that, because there were so many times I did not want people getting a hold of me.
Yeah.
And it was nice. But you
we did
needed
have
that
the
time.
pager. We had the pager. Did you guys have pagers
Oh,
growing
yeah.
up?
And so, I would say probably middle school.
Nobody
Well,
called me
so
on it,
middle
but I had
school.
one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my sisters would just send, like, the codes. Like, you could do hello or
Right.
Boobs.
love.
Boobs.
Yes, boobs.
143, 143.
My stepmom, I remember her confiscating my pager that this boy from work gave me because I looked like a drug dealer. And I'm like,
You had a pager. You're the guy we got our weed off of.
I don't even
Yeah.
know where to get weed, okay? I got the 21-year-old cook buying me tequila. I'm not.
You definitely had a better childhood. No, we did our share of drinking too. But not as early, I think, as a lot of people do nowadays.
No,
I mean,
I
our
think it
heavy
was like
drinking days probably
17.
didn't start till about, I was going to say 15, 16 for us.
Yeah,
Well,
it
I
was
see a
like
lot of
17,
people now are
18.
like 12, 13, and they're starting to get into that.
I will say I started my smoking habit early, and that was primarily because my parents smoked. And I wanted to see what they were so obsessed about. Probably wanted to look cool too. I think I was 13.
Wasn't it nasty when you first tried it?
It was. Well, actually, that first time I kind of got like this head buzz, so I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
that was
yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's what
You
gets
know
you.
what I mean? But then when
I
I
want that
could
again.
when I started smelling like a cigarette butt,
On a cold morning.
that part is when I stepped away from smoking for a few years.
Yeah.
What about television? We haven't really hit on any television yet. I know we had our topic last week about TV, but back when do you think television had a better impact when we were kids then than it does now? Considering what they could show and get away with.
One of the things that I miss, or, having a child right now, it's impossible to find content that both I and her are interested in because there's none of it. Nobody, it seems like they don't make stuff for the in-between. And they say, like, family, stuff. Disney Plus is cool, but everybody's seen the movies a million times.
Yeah.
So when you got it already, it was like, all right, yeah, let's watch Beauty and the Beast again. So,
Right.
but with that, back in the day, they wouldn't put content on the television that had lots of violence and swearing and things like that until after 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
But they did
And
put
you-
on much stuff that was really taboo. Well, it would be taboo now.
Well, back in the day, though, I mean, at least from, a basic television, standard, you had your things like the A-Team and stuff like that that had violence, but it was like G.I. Joe, where nobody
You could easily
miraculously got shot. Everybody ended up sort of in jail at the end, and nobody's
Like
the
the-
worse for wear.
Like the
Whereas
happily
nowadays,
ever after.
right?
what did you say?
Sort of like a happily ever after. There was
Yeah.
no like
Right.
finalization of death.
Which
right
I'm
in
not
your
saying
face.
For the
it
most
should
part, but
all
when
be
there
that way.
was, when there was, it was a special. I don't know if you remember growing up. I was a little kid. One called The Day After. That was about a nuclear
Right,
disaster. It was
yeah.
a huge event for TV. And they put the graphic warnings up there and stuff, and it became a family event to watch it. Now, that's partly what I mean, too, with television. There are no more family events of television. As you were saying, there's nothing to find. Do you think that streaming has destroyed that, or do you think just television in general has?
I think just overall, just the way life is now, technology, how our children have sort of been raised versus how we were raised. I mean, I like to think that I'm a little more forward-thinking, progressive kind of parent. Empty. Oh no, I'll
Gotta
share my
stock up next
tequila.
week.
But it's just kind of how life has progressed. I don't know. Like, if I remember back to some shows as a kid that were kind of like Tales from the Crypt was creepy. Like there was
Friday the
creepy.
13th had one.
Yeah.
That was a good show.
Even Freddy's
It was a
Night
good show.
Friday nights. I forget
They were
Freddy's
all
something.
sort of variations of Tales of the Dark Side.
Yeah.
Or the Twilight Zone.
Tales
Like-
from the Crypt was cool though.
Now kids are just different now. They're just different now, and I don't know if it's.
But I don't think it's worse necessarily.
No, I don't either.
I think there's a lot lacking. I think values have somewhat disappeared. But I don't think education has.
No,
But
I
I
mean,
think-
Go ahead, Gabe.
I think there's a danger there. I think there is a unending barrel of content, which both, leads people to have various, different types of tastes and stuff like that. But it can lead you down some rabbit holes, and that is sort of, you can just get stuck in content.
Yeah.
We would watch our show, and we would sort of watch it, and then we would go and play, and we'd sort of talk about it and stuff like that. And kids still do that, but now, if you're not careful, you could just never, ever stop. And one of my things is, just, I tell my kid, if you're going to watch like YouTube or something like that, I don't ever want you watching videos of adults playing with toys, because that shit makes no sense to me. If you want to watch people playing with toys,
I
then
totally
go
took that
play
in another direction, by the way.
with some toys.
I did too.
You know what I mean? So it's
I get what
you
you're
gotta be
saying,
careful.
like appropriate content for age.
You can watch
Age
anything
appropriate.
now, and you can't
Yeah.
rely on the networks or the services to control that.
No,
Right.
but
Which we used
as
to.
parents, we do have the ability, in a lot of these apps, we have the ability to limit what they can see, but to
But
an
there's a
extent.
problem with that. They're smarter than we are.
Yes.
Kids are smarter than we are. There is nothing we can put on there
right.
that they can't get around.
Yeah, you're
Now,
so
don't get
true.
me wrong. We were too with our parents. We were smarter than our parents in a lot of
Exactly.
things.
Yep.
At least we thought we were.
Oh, we were.
When do you think it was most influential? What do you think that really changed? I'm gonna say around the time like Beavis and Butthead, South Park, The Simpsons, is
Ren and
where people
Stimpy.
really started copying what they saw on television, because
Yeah.
we knew what was real and what wasn't.
Yeah.
We knew that yes, you could kill the Wile E. Coyote 100 times and it was fine.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't really die. At some point, it became. Now, do you think that was the kids who took it personally, or do you think it was the parents who made people think it was television's fault?
Well, I mean, maybe a combination. Maybe,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Parents not wanting to accept responsibility that, maybe video games or TV has become.
Wait. Back up on the video game part. Go ahead.
Maybe parents, don't want to accept responsibility that what their children are being subjected to directly affects how they are as just a human, just how they act out, just, personality in any way, shape, or form. Because kids are such sponges. They absorb, and we did too, absorb whatever it is they see or they hear. And if you've got an absent, okay, I don't want to say, parents of that generation, of our children's generation are absent, but when your child is so involved in technology that you're not really there, I'm not sitting beside my kids, you know,
Right.
Right.
talking about what they're doing. And so they're not getting the influence from us or from their parents. They're getting it from Michael Myers or, Freddy Krueger. Those are the people that they are aspiring to be. Where back in our day, I aspired to be, you know, my stepmom was like this superhero to me because of how hard she worked. And,
She-Ra, Princess of Power.
exactly. So I related her to, those characters of hope, but in a positive light. She was my superhero. As a child, where kids now, it's like Fortnite, Minecraft, that, it's all these characters that are,
It's an
not
unlimited
real.
supply. What about you, Gabe? Where do you think that point was, do you think?
Yeah, probably around the same. I mean, once the computer age started in there, you had a lot more people going online. It was sort of the beginning of that, and it was new to everybody. So you had America Online and the introduction to things like
think-
emails and stuff like that.
Do you think the information superhighway is better or worse than the library and the encyclopedia?
Well, I mean, not everything on the internet is true. I don't know if you're
Well,
aware of that.
I'll rephrase it to its point when it initially came out and its general purpose, before it became so convoluted with just bullshit because anybody can put anything they want.
I think it's wonderful to the point where you can find whatever you want. For me, teaching my daughter, or if she has a question like, "Hey, where do blue whales go in the winter?" or something like that.
It's nice to be able to pull
You
up
can
a
just
video
look
of
it
that
up.
too.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, as far as information-wise, it's great as a
But
learning
how about with
resource.
teachers? Because I've learned growing up that my teachers were wrong. We've probably all heard things our teachers have told us that we just believed our whole life,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
found out they're wrong. How do you think that affects teaching now? Do you think teachers at all are afraid to do anything like that? To teach certain aspects they know they can be proven wrong, they can't tell their own stories, even though there might be a moralistic reason behind it?
I think teachers have also evolved and adapted. However, I don't envy their job because their job now, with technology the way that it is, definitely puts them in a strange place, a strange position to be proven wrong by their own students, like you're talking about. It would definitely be a challenge to teach a child this day and age versus when we had just Webster's dictionary and we couldn't, challenge authority, because that's what these kids do.
And that's what we could not do as a kid. We kind of had to take it at face value. What they
Right.
said
Right.
was true. And that also rests with the parents. Our parents also told us quite a few things I'm sure we believed that over time we learned not so true.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll start with Santa Claus, but I don't want to get into that one right now. Because I know the internet lies. It says he
No-
doesn't
no
exist.
spoilers.
That's bullshit.
But
Yeah.
even though, we might teach our kids, respect authority, do you think that it's inappropriate for a child when they're being taught by someone and they know that that person is wrong? Do you think it's inappropriate for them to challenge them in the sense intellectually to say, no, you're wrong? Do you think that child is out of line by doing that?
In some ways, I think it is, but the child is kind of speaking for the masses.
Yeah.
Because when a teacher or somebody says something like that, they're telling 30-plus kids about this.
Yeah.
And I think when the child steps in, like, hey, we're here to be taught, not to hear your fiction. And I think that's important, but I think the stories and discovering stuff on your own is also just as important.
Yeah. And that's where I think that today's youth is going. The direction they're leaning into is they have more information at their fingertips as youth. So they have this stronger ability to form a much more informed opinion on topics. Let me tell you, some of my most challenging conversations are with my 15-year-old son, who is like, this kid will research topics you could never imagine a child to want to know information on. But he does, and we get into some very intellectual conversations, and he will challenge me like I've never been challenged. But I like it because I like to know that, our future is they don't have the fear of learning that information and maybe telling somebody they're
Right.
wrong. That's one thing I can
Right.
say about this younger generation is they're not held back by fear of, speaking their mind. That's what we need is people to speak the truth.
That is, I believe that's something in the future. I think that's something we need all along. I think in the 90s that started with a lot of kids and stuff coming out who are now in their 30s
Yeah.
and 40s
Yeah.
out there, and they're not afraid to speak their mind. You still got the group who is the older, who, what I say goes.
Yes.
But you've got the younger, but I think sometimes they're taking it to an extreme.
Yes.
Yes.
That they can't be proven wrong. And sometimes they're dumb as rocks as well.
Yes.
Because the problem is it doesn't teach them some common information
True.
that they need to
Yeah.
know.
No, you're right.
So
Yeah.
we don't have a whole lot of time left here, but we haven't delved on the one I wanted to hit, parenting. Do you think parenting has really changed a whole lot? We got punished, we got spanked, we got slapped. Some of us wish we didn't have that happen to us. Some of us are glad it did because it changed our life entirely. And now the kids have more control over you doing that. Mm-hmm. How do you take that, Gabe?
Yeah, no. It's
No.
Yeah. As far as disciplining, we try our hardest not to spank, although I can't say that I haven't.
No,
But as far as it's a different world. So it's just I don't know. It's
well, sometimes the spanking is not a bad thing. There's one of my favorite shows still is Malcolm in the Middle. We didn't even bring it up on the TV one, but that's
that
one of
was
my
a good
favorite
one.
shows. And there's actually one of the scenes, they're all stuck in a contaminated thing. They're like in a school gym, and Malcolm's grounded, and he's like saying, "What are you going to do, spank me?"
yeah.
And Lois, his mom, is just like, "All right," grabs him, yanks him, throws him over her knee, just lifts her hand, and she just does a tap on him really quick, just a small one, and then puts him
Right.
up. Goes, when I can't do that anymore, then you can have your own word and your own.
And
say.
that's where I'm at. We have a lot of different procedures that we do when the kid's in meltdown before we sort of get to that point. So it's more of the just
think
let's not get there kind of a thing.
Nikki, because you have quite a couple kids there, do you think our parents were more interactive than we are? Being a parent yourself, do you think you're as interactive with your children's time as back in your day with your mom? And your...
I think I'm more so, but I think that's also, things that I dealt with as a kid. I've tried to do the opposite of things, things that maybe in my mind didn't work for my parents. I try to do the opposite. I'm very involved with my children. Me and my kids have topics some people might find inappropriate at times. I don't really care. I will talk sex. We talk about many things, because I want that line of communication to be open. However, as a parent today versus how my parents parented,
I gotcha.
definitely parents are not as strict as they were back, in our day.
That's what Danielle's saying right here. That parents
Yeah.
aren't. She corrected over there. As parents aren't strict enough anymore. Which,
Yeah.
and that did create a lot more today's issues. People complain all the time about the kids today and what they can get away with, and they can't be spanked and all that. But you know who's complaining? The ones who caused the damn problem.
The Karens.
Yeah.
We did. Our
Yeah.
generation. It's
Oh,
our
yeah.
kids. We said it was wrong. We said you can't do that. We created a problem. Do you think that kids will reverse what we did?
Maybe.
Do you think it's their potential, Gabe?
I think right now it's more of a battle of being there than anything else. I think that there's going back to the content thing. There's just so much to help you escape from the actual world nowadays
Yeah.
that you can do that on a daily basis, and
I have to
that
ask you, Pat,
can probably
really quick.
harm your child.
before you go, I'm going to ask Pat. It's what they have learned. Which Pat is, by the way, Danielle, who just commented. That's I believe that's Danielle's mom, right there. What do you mean? It's what they've learned. You said no. It's what they've learned. Do you think? Are you talking about the strictness of it? They're not strict enough, or they were strict enough? We'll get back to you in a minute as soon as you respond.
Sorry, go ahead. And I think that, like what Gabe's saying, like kids, kids nowadays, they've learned differently. We've taught them differently. Do I see a potential that they could maybe reverse what we've taught them? Maybe. It's all depends on how they were raised. Really, I see a potential for a very disconnected society, if I'm just being honest.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was an EMP. One of that knocks out technology. Everybody's literally fucked around here.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
So
at
much
least
on that.
everybody's going to have to talk to each other then, you know,
Yeah, but
I don't
you know
get
what?
that concept.
That's the
You
problem.
mean I'll have to
is,
see you people in person?
in
Right.
person.
Right, and that's the problem is kids today they're not used to, having to be forced into that type of communication with their peers, other than school. But my kids have been out of school since when, March, and my son's down to one friend because he's not
Yeah.
making the effort to communicate. The simple effort.
Danielle,
Yeah.
you're right. The parents are extremely afraid to be put in jail right now for spanking and other things, which change the mental status in the brains. But I don't think for bad. I think when done appropriately, I don't think it's wrong. I'm not suggesting you beat your kids.
Right.
I am totally against any kind of abuse like that. And there is an age limit where spanking definitely
Yes.
doesn't need to be happening anymore.
Yes.
There's other
Right.
ways to punish your kid.
Yeah.
But that is common in a lot of the animal kingdom in general. Some kind of physical demonstration of, no, this is wrong.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. That is almost instinctual.
Yeah.
I don't think it changes. I think when you get beat or if you get spanked for everything that goes wrong, or your mom or dad is just in a bad mood and they're going to whip out that belt that we had. Now, mind you, I got the belt, I got the switch. I'm against those. I don't think those were good ideas at all.
Yeah.
But a standard spanking to show you who's in charge, that doesn't cause a lot. However, hitting, punching, a slap, I think I told my mom to fuck off one time. And again, I told my mom to fuck off one time.
One time.
Yeah.
I
all
can't
it takes.
tell you exactly what happened. The room span, and she was there afterwards. I have no idea what happened.
I've
Yeah, I
definitely
mean-
been
Listen.
called some expletives by my parents.
I mean, I've definitely learned to pick my battles as a parent, which is something I can't say that my parents did. It was like their rule of the house. It was, they ruled with the iron fist. Were we beaten? No. My dad had a fish scaler, a wooden fish scaler, that all he had to do was put that sucker out and we would be brought to tears. Now, you're talking about a house full of girls. Like, we weren't crazy.
Right.
Maybe.
But aren't we all just kind of going in the dark about it? I mean,
Yeah,
the kids
yeah.
don't have it together. We pretend we do. Like,
Right.
we have this membership to adulthood, but we don't really know what we're doing when it
No,
comes to
there's
raising
no
kids.
manual. No, there's
So
no manual.
we go by sort of what you see in movies and how you were
Instinct.
raised,
Like he
and-
said, the animal kingdom. We go by instinct
Right.
of what we
Yes.
think.
and you try to do your best, and if you see things change, you go, okay, I'm doing it right.
So, timeouts. Do
Yeah.
timeouts work?
They
I wish-
can if
Oh,
they're
I give
done
them
wish
time
they
properly.
outside. I think I misread that. That's their punishment. They got to go outside. Is that what I'm
Hey,
catching
I
there,
love-
Danielle?
She
Smart
has the
move.
right. Yes, get your
Mi-
asses
mine's all
outside.
about outside. So.
Yeah.
We would have so taken advantage of that because that's where we wanted to be.
Right. Timeouts
So-
did work as my children were younger. But you have to be timeouts. You have to be very consistent. And younger parents. I'm a younger parent, but even younger parents
Well,
don't
don't kid
necessarily.
yourself.
Yeah, they don't necessarily have the patience. You know what I mean? That takes.
Okay. I want to ask for both of you as both parents, have you ever punished your kids in a way that you thought you might get in trouble or they might say something or do it? I mean, if you haven't
No.
done it, have you ever thought, like, is it right to spank them? Does that weigh in the back of your mind?
No.
No.
I will
Okay.
say this though. I was not a parent who physically punished because my children experienced physical abuse in their other parents' home. Therefore, I always lived by this thought, like, how can I teach my kids not that hitting is not okay as I'm hitting them for hitting? It didn't make sense to me.
Right.
And I had,
But
I
we
had
knew the difference. I mean, I knew the difference in getting spanked for doing something wrong and hitting another person because, they like Marvel.
yeah,
Right. You
well,
just
yeah.
have to keep repeating that stuff over and over and over
It's
and over and
consistency, yeah.
ad
Not
nausea
strict.
until they get it.
Pat's saying that parents they were not strict, they're too liberal, and that everything's okay nowadays, which is very true. That's what she was saying no to. They were more strict in our day, and in some ways it was good, some ways it was bad. Sometimes we got grounded for things we didn't think we deserved,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
But ours weren't present either. You know what I mean? We grew up, our entire clique was about 6 kids, all coming from divorced families.
Yeah.
And all of our kids, or all of our parents were working, in order to support us. So we would see them at night, but it was also a different time where we were on our own much earlier in life back then. I mean, we remember walking to school when I was,
uphill
8.
both ways. Yeah.
Right, 9. One of my favorite stories is,
Well, actually, can I get to that 1 second? I want
sorry, go
to
ahead.
hit
Yep.
Pat up really quick on this. Before we do, she said the parents, you have to be consistent in what you say you do, and that's the problem with a lot of parents. They aren't really consistent right now. And the liberal thing, I want to touch on this in a minute. We're going a little bit over tonight. I definitely want to touch in the fact that all these participation trophies, the no losers awards and stuff, are a huge issue too. We're going to get to that in 1 second. Pat, go ahead, Gabe. Continue with what you were saying.
just, the fact that we were walking to school by ourselves. I mean, the question is like, has the world gone mad in the past 20 years, or was it the same and we're just more into sort of the news cycle of sort of danger? You know what I mean? Because we used to hear about every little new article and stuff like that, and now we hear every bad thing that ever happened to anybody on a daily basis. Which, getting back to the point of, I used to just go out and I would walk to a park at 11, a mile away,
Yeah.
and just go there because we would do these, excursions and stuff like that. We got into a lot of stupid danger, but, we made it out mostly
but we knew how to
unscathed.
take care of ourselves too.
Right.
Obviously anything could happen because it's a dangerous world no matter what time era you lived in. It's a
Right.
dangerous world, so anything could happen. But we knew certain things not to do. And why? Because some of the stuff our parents said and did. And you can't keep, like Pat says again, you can't just keep yelling at them.
Right.
That doesn't always work. But what she says in here is you need to put the fear in them with just a look. That look works when there's been a consequence. Now, you may never have to repeat that consequence, but they know that look means business. That's also true. The thing is, like, I've got one of my dogs, my Shepherd Husky, Shenzi. I got her as a rehome, and they had a shock collar for her. I don't believe in shock collars or anything. But she didn't really seem abused or anything like that. But it got to the point that you turn that thing on, and she instantly obeys what you're saying. She hears what you're saying. She knows. And that's the same kind of training you eventually have to do with your children. I get that children are not dogs, but every creature born on this planet has to learn a way of life. And maybe you did get spanked that one time, and that was because you counted to 10. So if you start counting before you hit 10, likely that's not going to happen again. It's the repeated offenses, I think, that are the biggest problem.
Yeah.
It's the education of right and wrong. I mean, there's many methods of how to get there. But
Sure.
yeah, the consistency is obviously the most important part, so that they know not to be assholes when they're adults.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, okay. I have a lot of friends who are my age who grew up with the same thing, and they're complete assholes. Like,
I know.
so, yeah, well, we all know them.
Well, some it doesn't matter how we're taught as a child, as we become an adult and we know everything, kind of mentality. We develop our own ways, stupid or not stupid.
Pat, we're going to go on to another topic in a second. I have one question for you about that. You said you never hit your kids or used a belt on them. I am against the belts and the switches or extension cords or many other things they could find at the time. But do you think that it's actually wrong that people have I don't want to say properly if you're against it, but have spanked their kids when they needed it, or if they said the wrong thing, they got slapped. Do you think that was actually wrong of them if it's not a repeat occurrence? Just curious your opinion on that. I want to go over to the participation award syndrome that everybody's got right now. That, I think, is destroying people more than anything.
Yeah.
Competition is necessary, I
Right.
believe, in life.
You need to lose.
Yeah.
You need to lose a lot because
Yes.
you are going to lose a lot
Yes.
in life.
Yes.
And you have to know that it all begins again tomorrow.
If we got our ass
Exactly.
kicked in Street Fighter, you know what we do? We played and we got better. We came back
Yeah.
and kicked their ass.
Exactly.
You need to have a loser to strive to be better, because ultimately you want to reward your kid, but then why try to do more if you're getting rewarded anyway?
Exactly.
We really
Right.
got off more on parents and kids on this than we expected.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
But it is
it's
still a big change from back when we were younger.
definitely, yeah, definitely. And kids this day and age, like you said, they're so used to getting rewarded, whether they win, lose, or whatever. That when they need to know it's okay to lose. It's important. It's important of being a functional adult.
Thank you for that, Pat, by the way, because that is, I respect people who are like that, because I know people who won't hit. I have a hard time, hitting a child or anything like that. I've raised a couple in my life, actually. And sometimes there was one that did deserve it one time, and he got slapped so hard across his face, and I don't think he'll ever do it again.
Yeah.
But it's not something I don't want to see it all the time, but I understand when sometimes it's necessary.
Well, because
there
the
should be
re-
other options,
Well, the result.
but you're not a bad parent.
The result of a child not ever being smacked in the mouth or whatever is these snotty little brats who, come into this world so entitled. These little a-holes out here. who
Kids are entitled beyond
they're
belief.
so disrespectful. Like, I have never
Yeah.
seen such disrespect to our elderly community from these younger generations, to the point I am not a physically altercating person, but there's been plenty of times where I physically wanted to just smack them upside the head and say, what the hell is your problem? Like, just like cutting old women off to get into the store first, or it's just a level of disrespect. It's
Well, I just put it on the screen what Pat said, which was the fact that kids nowadays think that everybody owes them something.
Yeah.
I think she meant owes, not owns, but
So
everybody
what's your-
owes them.
What's your
Yeah.
what's your old person complaint? The thing that you never thought you would complain about? Because right now, and let's make this fun. The one thing that drives me crazy is when you see like 16-year-olds crossing the street at 1 mile an hour, and you're trying to turn, and they can run. They can run.
right.
My complaint is definitely career related, and it's totally fucking kids the way they act when they're drunk in the bars now. Like when we started going to bars, we were like the angels of the bar scene, and we wanted everybody to like us. We got drunk and stupid, but we wanted the bar to like us.
Yeah.
Right.
We
No.
tried our best to get the bar to like us, and I know a lot of the younger generation that goes in the bars and do fully respect that and act right. But some of them just want to pick the biggest fights and be the biggest assholes, and they always got to prove they have the biggest dick. Usually they're driving a very big truck. And I'm sorry, Subway.
It's so funny. Well,
It's the lack of respect, I think, for your elders. I hate to be termed as an elder, but we are their elders.
yeah, definitely. I mean, and I don't look at myself as an elder, but there's a certain level of respect that is deserving of someone who is older than you. It is what it is.
It's supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
Hopefully
yeah.
that you would think that people learn refinement, and
Yeah, we would.
it's
we should-
hard to find
They do.
nowadays, but it's
I'm
there.
gonna hope for faith in humanity, but
Yeah.
We definitely should hope they do. A lot of people out there are always complaining that kids don't understand what it's like. They don't know what it's going to be like to grow up in our day, and that's just totally not true in any way. We don't understand what it's like to be them. We don't know what it's like to have parents like us,
Right.
and not necessarily us as individuals, but us as a society.
Right.
We don't know what it's like to always be rewarded, and we don't know the kind of attitude we'd have if the same was done to us. The next time you think your kids don't have good taste in music, why don't you think back to what you listened to and what you were willing to tolerate around your friends? You may like some of that music now, but when you were younger, did you tolerate that like they do nowadays? When you think they don't understand about sitting at home watching TV with your family, why don't you think if you had the world of movies at your fingertips, would you be watching it continuously?
Right.
They don't understand the video games and the portableness and the cell phones. Do you think you wouldn't be glued to yours in school? We were glued to our Walkmans. We were glued to other things that we had in our Game Boys, and we tried to get out of listening to the teacher at the same time. If we had a phone, you'd think we wouldn't be watching that? Society changes. People are different. We're all different in every way, and we've all lived different lives. Nobody is better or worse than anybody else, but sometimes you just got to go with the times. And if you don't like the way it is, be part of the generation that changes it. If you don't like the way your kids are being, be part of the generation that tells that generation how to better themselves in the future. Everybody dreams that their kids are going to be better than they were. And hopefully your kids will want the same, and they're going to pass on the knowledge they learned too. Don't forget that they're human beings. They need the love and kindness, but they also need to learn a thing or two. Don't forget to teach. Don't forget to discipline. And just don't forget to show them all the love you can. On our next show coming up on Wednesday, we're going to do disorders in the family. What is that is about? It's going to be people who live with family members who have disorders. This was supposed to be originally last Wednesday's show, but we couldn't do it because one of our panelists had left, so we're going to bring them back in this Wednesday. But if you live with a family member who might be dealing with bipolarism, maybe autism, stuff like that, how it is like dealing with them, how you handle them, how you work, it's going to be one of our deeper topics. Don't forget always to like, share, subscribe, and follow on YouTube and Facebook. Very important. You can engage live during the chat as you saw during this show. You can even be a guest panelist on the show at the same time. We'd love to see you suggest new topics. The Ear Shoulder Voice website is now up. Just go to earshouldervoice.com and you can see all our shows there as well, links to it, find out about our team, find out a lot more information there as well. We're glad to have everybody here. Gabriel, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on this show, as usual.
Always.
You're just a nice breath of fresh air, and you definitely get growing up like I did, so I appreciate that a lot.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Nikki, what do you got? Any last words about anything?
Just no, not really.
All right. Well, that was definitely informative.
I do want to say one thing. My hope for the world is that even despite the differences of how we've all, our age, our day and age to the kids, the youth day and age, I hope that we all evolve into a place that we just realize kindness and respect will take our world to a whole different place versus the lack of respect and the lack of control that the world seems to be in.
The world is revolving.
Yep.
Evolving constantly.
So are the people. So are the generations. Everything you have will come back eventually. It just might not be in your generation, but it's going to come back.
True.
And we're repeating stuff that happened generations before us. Thank you again. I am Keith Litfin. And
I'm Nikki.
I'm Gabriel.
Hey, we did better than Lenny on that one. That was awesome. This has been ESV, and we will see you on Wednesday for, once again, Disorders in the Family. All right. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. I told you I could go on like for hours.
I always think when we start this, how are we going to fill this kind of time? I really do. Every time we start, I'm like, am I really going to be able to fill this kind of time with this? Right. And then halfway through, I'm like, we don't have enough time. We're running out of time.
Every time. We really could talk for hours. We really could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Because it's like, there's so much stuff you want to get off your chest these days.
Yes.
And
yes.
thing, getting back to just, like I said, with me and Keith and karaoke, it would just be a couple minutes of it in between songs and stuff like that. But then we'd catch up. We'd talk about sort of our things going on and, how we're all doing. and that was it. So this for me is
Share a
like
lot more.
I'm
I
gonna,
actually
I'm
really
gonna go
liked
forever.
this one. I actually enjoyed this one. I wasn't sure at first, and I
I
really
like
enjoyed
these. I really like these laid back topics. Where we can just kind of, I don't know, reflect on.
I think doing the Sundays
life.
laid back and then the Wednesdays a little more deep. I think that's a good
Right.
balance there.
Yeah, I think so.
I would have kept
Definitely.
the show going longer, but I'm running out of alcohol.
Oh, no,
I
that's
understand.
a travesty.
My
I've
back's
got
starting to
plenty.
hurt.
I've got a whole bottle.
Well, yeah, but that's over
Mine.
there, and I'm over here.
I'm not sitting the
We'll
correct way in
teleport
this
it.
chair. Oh, going back to that story. So I didn't
one?
get to say it in the thing, but so when I was walking to school by myself, right? I would wake up in the morning. I would watch a show. Obviously, everyone did. Then
The
you get
Great
ready.
Space Coaster. Sorry.
So I watched Blazing Saddles, right?
Before school.
Before
Before
school.
school.
So here's the thing. So I'm watching this. I'm amazed by Blazing Saddles. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's just fantastic. It finishes. It's like 9:45. I'm like,
way
oh
late."
shit. I call my mom. I'm like crying. Mom, I was watching Blazing Saddles. And now I'm late for school. I forgot to go to school. She's like, it's okay. You can stay home. And she calls in.
That was the trick? That's all I had to
That's
do was
it.
watch a movie?
I know all the tricks. Throw up in the back of a cop car.
You're good. My kids will not
Watch
be allowed to
Blazing
watch
Saddles.
this show, by the way. No,
That's fair.
I'm
You
kidding.
didn't say anything that bad.
No,
was on Cinemax.
they don't need extra ideas on how to skip school. I'm still waiting for
Oh.
the text message of I missed the bus and I'm not gonna make it, even though he's
What were you
upstairs.
doing? Watching Blazing Saddles? You'll know right where that came from.
Well, they can't really use that because they go to school virtually. But I have a child. My 13-year-old would totally try to pull that. I missed the bus.
Hey,
Right.
You
Yeah.
didn't touch on it in the show, but I'm just curious. Would you prevent your kids from watching movies like that nowadays? We watched
Me?
it when we were young. Yeah, you or Nicole.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, my
So
kids...
here's the thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Violence, I try to keep away from more than like language and comedy and things like that. Because I
How
can
old are yours, though,
explain.
Gabe?
She's 6.
Okay. So mine
So-
are teens.
Swear words, there's going to be intros to things like that,
Yeah.
So I don't want to put a whole lot of dark content on the television as of right now because for
Right.
one thing, she's definitely affected by that stuff already.
You know what I think? I think instead of on Netflix where you can block out like mature movies and stuff like that, I think you should be able to set it up so it's a scrambled image.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So
Kind
they get
of
to have
like-
the fun we did trying to make out what a tit was.
I knew that was coming.
Good old porn
I
nights.
knew that was coming.
Right.
And for me, it's harder for me to limit my children on what they watch because they do, they all have computers, they all have cell phones, they both, they all have TVs in their bedrooms, they've kind of got it all. I've just made it so easy. Here you go on a silver platter.
You just can't really control it anymore.
But my youngest is 13. In the home, it's 13, 15, and 17. So I would fully expect and anticipate that at those ages, they've looked at boobs many times. God no, I don't want to know what else.
Everything.
That's what I wanted to
yes.
get into that we didn't talk about too.
Everything.
I know that boobs brought it up because we used to have a bunch of Hustler magazines and shit, clubhouses and forts and shit. I wanted to get
In my
into that. And I
fort,
forgot
that's right.
about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
kids even still, we lived on a half acre, and they would make forts with the neighbors in my mulberry bushes. Like they had
Yep.
their adventures.
We had one, yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
I loved